Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're diving into a critical strategy for all you SOC analysts, security engineers, and CSIOs out there. We're tackling Strategy 10 from the playbook, measure performance to improve performance. Now, the core premise here is kind of simple, but honestly, it's profound. A world-class cybersecurity operations center absolutely has to measure its own performance if it ever wants to actually improve. I mean, without measurement, you're flying blind. It's virtually impossible to know what's working well, or more importantly, where your defenses are totally falling short.
But right off the bat, I want you to really think about this provocative question. Are you measuring what matters or just counting what's easy? This right here is the central tension we're going to unpack today. Look, counting the number of tickets closed or the sheer volume of logs ingested, that's easy. But a lot of times those are just vanity metrics. What we really need to zero in on are the metrics that drive actual security improvements and genuinely reduce risk for the whole organization.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll go from the measurement imperative and core elements right into modern environments. Then we'll look at the pitfalls of poor metrics, establish some world-class benchmarks, and wrap up with actionable recommendations.
Okay, let's jump straight into Section 1, the measurement imperative, or chaos versus clarity. Because at the end of the day, SOC leadership needs absolute clarity over operational chaos if they want to succeed.
We've all seen this contrast in the real world, right? In an unmeasured SOC, it's a dangerous reality. Analysts suffer from severe burnout, everything feels ad hoc, the business is completely blind to its actual cyber risk, and because the team can't definitively prove their value, they're constantly under-resourced. Now flip that around. A measured SOC has clarity. They can confidently justify their budgets because they show a clear ROI, and they maintain a sharp strategic focus. They know exactly where to deploy their engineers and threat hunters to make the absolute biggest impact.
And yet, despite all those obvious benefits, the data is pretty staggering. According to recent SANS poll data, only 50% of all SOCs actually have a formal metrics program in place. Think about that for a second. Exactly half of the security operations centers out there are just winging it. But for the professionals tuning in right now, this represents a massive opportunity. You can elevate your operations from average to elite simply by getting a structured measurement program up and running.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, core elements of metrics. Let's get into the tactical trenches and actually build this framework.
You can think of a complete SOC metrics program like building a house. It builds sequentially, from the foundation on up. You start by identifying your overarching business objectives, move through data collection and synthesis, and then that flows directly into reporting and ultimately decision-making.
It breaks down into a highly actionable 5-step workflow. Step 1 is the why, your business objectives. Why are we even measuring this? Step 2 is the what, identifying those data sources. Step 3, data synthesis. This is where you ideally use automation to combine the why and the what to generate actual meaning, getting out of manual spreadsheets. Step 4 is reporting that data effectively. And Step 5, this is the absolute most critical one, decision-making. If your metrics don't lead to an action or decision, even if that decision is just, we're going to stay the course, then those metrics are totally useless.
So how do we categorize all this? Well, you start internally. Internal metrics focus on the tactical, day-to-day health of your tools and data pipelines. Take pipeline latency, for example. The target here is getting data from raw generation to the analyst's console in under 30 seconds. This is the stuff your engineers and Tier 1 analysts care about. It answers the question, are our tools actually online and delivering data fast enough for us to catch a bad guy? And hey, a quick pro tip. Make sure you measure actual service availability here, not just OS uptime. A server that's powered on but has a crashed logging service isn't doing anyone any good.
Now contrast those internal metrics with external SOC metrics. This is a whole different ballgame. These are the numbers your CISOs, business stakeholders, and executives actually care about. They don't want to hear about pipeline latency. They want to know about mission readiness, like are we fully capable of defending the network? They want to know scanning coverage. Are we actually scanning 95% of the enterprise? That specific metric is incredibly powerful, by the way, because it directly drives budget conversations. Let me tell you, nothing forces a business unit owner to patch their systems faster than seeing a giant red metric on an executive dashboard.
Okay, so we've got the framework, but we have to adapt it to the real world. Welcome to Section 3, metrics in modern environments. Because legacy metrics, they just don't cut it when the traditional network perimeter has basically vanished.
Today's SOC has to defend cloud environments, SaaS platforms, mobile devices, IoT, and a totally remote workforce. A beginner SOC might say, well, we've got a sensor on the network switch, so we're 100% monitored. But elite SOCs, they track both breadth and depth. Breadth means looking across every single asset type, Windows, Linux, cloud, you name it. Depth means measuring visibility across the entire compute stack, from the bare metal hardware all the way up to the application layer. That is how you systematically eliminate blind spots when your environment is everywhere all at once.
And when we talk about modern environments, automation is a total game changer. When you leverage Security Orchestration Automation and Response, or SOAR, a mature metrics program tracks your automation success. Think about it. If your SOAR platform is successfully handling 99% of routine events automatically and leaving only 1% for manual intervention, that metric proves you're successfully shifting your human analysts away from mind-numbing data synthesis and freeing them up for high-value stuff like advanced threat hunting.
But listen, there's a serious trap here. Let's move into Section 4, Pitfalls of Poor Metrics. What's really fascinating about this next part is that measuring the wrong things can literally destroy your SOC's culture from the inside out.
There's a quote from the source material that you really need to internalize. Not all measures result in positive outcomes. It's a sobering realization. Poorly designed key performance indicators, or KPIs, can very easily drive toxic behaviors that end up leaving your entire organization vulnerable.
Let me paint a picture of how this toxicity actually plays out on the floor. Imagine a SOC manager who rigidly enforces a mean time to resolve metric, the MTTR. An analyst is deep into a complex alert, but they see their timer about to turn red. To avoid getting penalized, they hastily close the ticket before they ever complete a proper root cause analysis. Sure, they satisfied the metric, but they just left a backdoor wide open for an adversary. We also see teams literally hiding unmanaged assets just to show 100% compliance to the boss, or analysts prioritizing basic ticket delivery over the deep, creative investigation required to catch an advanced persistent threat. Remember, the metrics have to serve the mission, not the other way around.
So, how do we avoid falling into those traps? Let's check out Section 5, World-Class SOC Benchmarks. We're going to see exactly how top-tier teams elevate their measurement game.
Everyone starts somewhere, and you can really see this capability build across a maturity timeline. In the beginner phase, SOCs are basically just doing ad hoc tracking and checking basic service delivery metrics. In the intermediate phase, they finally ditch the manual spreadsheets, they automate their data synthesis, and they start tracking that breadth of coverage across modern assets we talked about earlier. But the elite phase, that's where it gets really cool. World-class SOCs measure their defensive depth by mapping their coverage directly against the Mitre attack framework. They know exactly which adversary tactics they can and cannot detect, and they leverage custom data science to sniff out anomalies.
And a huge part of reaching that elite status is understanding one critical distinction: the difference between SLAs and SLOs. An SLA, a service-level agreement, is a metric you are formally legally held to through contracts or strict business requirements. An SLO, a service-level objective, is an operational target you aspire to achieve. SOC managers have to be incredibly careful here. Do not legally trap yourself by turning a great aspirational SLO, like, hey, let's try to detect all critical threats in 5 minutes, into a rigid SLA that your team will inevitably fail to meet.
All right, let's bring this explainer home with Section 6, Recommendations and Takeaways. It's time for some actionable steps you can actually implement today.
For the practitioners tuning in, here is your roadmap. For quick wins, seek team consensus on any new metrics. You want to avoid building resentment and enact quality controls to prevent that metric gaming we just discussed. In the medium term, your biggest goal is to automate data synthesis. Seriously, get out of those manual spreadsheets. Long term, you've got to balance those basic delivery metrics with growth metrics. Start rewarding analysts for updating standard operating procedures or for building brilliant new detections. And universally, always prioritize transparency. Use your metrics to highlight where you have resource gaps, not as a weapon to penalize your staff.
If you take away only one single thing from today's explainer, let it be this core principle. Measure to improve your performance, not just to prove your existence. A world-class metrics program isn't about making pretty, colorful dashboards for the boardroom. It's about empowering your analysts, driving positive investigative behaviors, and achieving actual, measurable risk reduction for your entire organization.
Okay, so you've implemented your metrics program, you've optimized your coverage, you've eliminated those toxic KPIs, and your core operations are humming along perfectly. Now what? How do you take all that refined, measured capability and truly turn up the volume? Well, that is exactly what we're going to cover next time in Strategy 11, Turn Up the Volume by Expanding SOC Functionality. You absolutely won't want to miss it. Keep learning, keep measuring, and I'll see you in the next explainer.